not very sturdy, but whatever. Hey guys, how's it going? It's Zach, and welcome back to another Zach video. Today, I'm going to be talking about Dunkirk. Yes, I'm going to be giving a review on Dunkirk. Spoiler warning, if you would rather not have parts of the movie spoiled for you, now's a good time to go ahead and find some other video of mine to watch instead of this one. Let's get right to it, shall we? First of all, let's turn the clock back a year. That's a quote, another Christopher Nolan quote. Last year, I was out in California, and some of you may not care that I was out in California. Let me give you a little bit of reason why this is kind of relevant. Last year, I was able to walk around Warner Brothers around the lot all by myself. I ended up making friends with one of the security guards who told me to go look at this hangar where they were building some sort of set for an upcoming movie. So I did. I went over to the hangar, and this guy was there, and they were building this big ship, like a big battleship, just right in the middle of this hangar. And they showed me how it worked and everything like that. It was really, really cool. So I was curious as to what film this was for, so I asked him, hey, what film is this for? And he said, well, it's actually for a movie called Bodega Bay. And I said, Bodega Bay? I haven't heard of that one yet. Who's directing that? And he said, it's actually not Bodega Bay. That's just the working title. The real title is Dunkirk by Christopher Nolan. And I was like, say what now? And he was all like, yeah, man, this is the set for Dunkirk, Christopher Nolan's new film. And I was all like, oh my gosh, are you telling me that I'm standing on a Christopher Nolan set right now? And he was all like, yeah, man, it's pretty cool, right? And I said, yeah, just a little bit. So that was really cool. I was actually on the set of Dunkirk out in California. Spoilers, there's a scene in the movie where they're inside of the ship and they get hit by a torpedo. And in this scene, the ship fills up with water and sinks with a lot of people still inside. The ship that I saw and was on the set of was this ship in the film. Anyway, as of today, I have seen Dunkirk twice. Not once, but twice. It is such a good film. Now, I got to see the second time for free. That's right, I got to see it for free. How did you get to see it for free, Zach? You might be asking. Well, I'll tell you how. I literally just called the theater and was like, hey, could I come and see the movie for free in IMAX for free? And the guy was all like, yeah, sure, man, I got you covered. Just come on in and we'll get you in for free. And I was all like, wait, really? And the guy was all like, yeah, man, just come on in, it'll be fine. So I was all like, all right, well, cool, man, thanks. I appreciate that. And he was all like, yeah, man, no worries. We'll see you when you get here. Love you. And I was all like, I love you too? And we both had a pretty good laugh about that. That was pretty fun. So I've seen Dunkirk twice now. Now, let's get right into my actual review for the film. Now, just as a disclaimer, pretty much this whole thing is just my opinion of this film. Take it with a grain of salt, make your own decision. Don't take my word for it, go see it for yourself. That being said, let's get right into it. Let's start at the very beginning. That's a very good place to start. First, let me start out by saying this film is just incredible. It is not, however, a typical war film. It's intense, it's heart-pounding, it's anxiety-inducing, it's meaningful, it's gritty. It's nothing like anything I've seen before as a war film. Now, I should say that this is less of a war film than what people are going in having expectations for. Quite a few of my friends have gone in to see this film and then come out really confused and really disappointed that it wasn't a war film. This is not your typical war film. It is not like Saving Private Ryan, and it is not like Band of Brothers. Both are great films, by the way. It was so much more in depth into the characters and the people that were at Dunkirk rather than the war itself. So a little bit of background on the actual story of Dunkirk. Dunkirk takes place during World War II. The British and French soldiers were stuck, basically surrounded by air, sea, and land forces from the German army. Basically, they couldn't get off this beach, even though just over the channel was Britain, where they would have been safe. The story focuses on this anxiety of being able to see home, but not being able to get there, which I think is why it's such a different type of war film. The acting was absolutely amazing. There's very little dialogue, and that makes you focus on what the characters are doing and their facial expressions and what they're actually feeling in the film rather than what they're saying in the film. The fact that they were silent said so much more than what any kind of words could say in this film. Now let's start with some of these actors. Fionn Whitehead did such an amazing job. He's the main character. He was so good at what he did. Like, you really felt like you were there with him and feeling what he was feeling during the film. Surprisingly, Harry Styles didn't do too bad in the film. I was actually kind of surprised. Not surprised that he actually did well, I suppose, but that he actually played the part well. I actually really kind of enjoyed it. Cillian Murphy was also in the film, and I thought he did an amazing job at portraying his character. Now, of course, Tom Hardy was in the film, but his face was covered for 99% of the film. But his eyes in the film, you could see everything through his eyes, and it was so well done. I couldn't believe how they did that. It was so good. While the story is set in World War II, and it's about a particular time in the war, it's not about the war itself. It's about the story of these men surviving Dunkirk. And that's the whole point of the film. Their survival and their evacuation from Dunkirk, and how that was made possible is what the real story is here. How that was made possible is the British Army, unable to get their boats close enough to the shore to get everybody out. They didn't have enough boats because they kept getting blown up by both U-boats and the German Air Force. So the British Army commandeered and told civilians to take their boats and go get the people at Dunkirk. And they did. Almost 400,000 men were saved because of civilians taking their own boats to ferry the soldiers back home. That's an amazing story. During this film, you get so invested in these characters and you want them to survive so bad. You find yourself sitting there on the edge of your seat wondering what's going to happen next. The music helps get you into the film. It makes you feel the anxiety and feel that tension that's being felt both on screen and now with yourself. Hans Zimmer did such an amazing job with this music. I already purchased the soundtrack. It's so good. But it's not your typical soundtrack. It's beautiful. It is so beautiful. But it's also very tension building and almost panic inducing because of the way that it was composed. It really makes you feel that tingling in the back of your neck wondering what's going to happen next. It really brought me into the film. It really helped me be immersed into the film because of the music. The color, it was so good. It's amazing. A lot of people don't realize how a lot of films have color schemes to them where they only use certain shades of blues or tans and stuff like that. The way that this film was colored, it wasn't grayscaled, but it was definitely, it looked kind of old and muted colors, which just gave you that more gritty, intense feeling while watching this film, which just even more just made it so much more intense and immersive. The sounds of the actual film, they used real planes and plane sounds and real artillery, and they were so loud that they were almost to the point where you're just like, wow, that's almost too loud. But then you realize, like, that must have been what they felt on the beach when a bomber is coming down blowing them all up. You really feel and hear, but just a fraction of what it was. And it just really, it's so good. Something else that makes the film so immersive is the fact that there's a ticking sound, like almost like a timer that just makes you feel anxious because you know that these men are running out of time and that they really need to get off this beach. And this kind of plays throughout the entire film until the very end where the boy is in the train and they've been rescued. And all of a sudden there's this silence. There's just this moment of silence where he's finally able to sleep and that ticking just kind of stops. And it's just amazing how you don't even realize that ticking. It took me until the second time I saw it to realize that this ticking was basically going through the entire film, every scene almost seamlessly. I don't know. I was sitting there like this, freaking out the whole time in this film because of how intense it was. Obviously, Christopher Nolan did such an amazing job directing it. It's no secret he's one of my favorite directors. He's somebody I look up to and am someday going to meet, and I'm going to shake that man's hand because why not? In my opinion, he is so good at making you think during a film. This is a historically based film, not like his others, Interstellar or Inception, where it makes you think of the psychological in that sense. But what it does is it makes you think about the psychological repercussions of being in a war. You see that, and he makes you think of things while you're watching the film, like if that was you in the film. And it was just I don't know, he did such a good job. He always does such a good job in his directing. He's so good. I love his directing. In every film, there's gotta be a favorite shot. In this film, there's a shot where the plane runs out of gas and he's just kind of gliding over the beach and there's this silence, and I don't even think there's music playing at that part. There's this silence of just this plane flying overhead while all the people on the beach just watch him gliding. And there's a shot that you just kind of follow him along, and I loved it. It just was so good. That was probably my favorite shot of the whole film. I guess what all my rambling here is to say is go watch Dunkirk and see for yourself this amazing, incredibly thought-provoking, heart-pounding film. Don't take my word for it with this review. This is purely just my opinion of why I think it's such a good film. I want you to go watch it for yourself and then tell me what you think. I think you won't be disappointed. I think you should go watch it. I think you would love it. Anyways, thanks for watching my first movie review of Dunkirk. Go watch it, see it for yourself. You won't be disappointed. It's awesome. So, thanks for watching. Subscribe, tell your friends, and as always, cool beans.